Yo, Drake, my brother, I think you're not reading the room here. You just went through one of the most horrifying rap battles of life. I do kind of look at Drake like, bad.
Yo, Drake, my brother, I think you're not reading the room here. You just went through one of the most horrifying rap battles of your life. And honestly, I see Drake as bad timing again. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's episode of Lobby in Gentle Land, the wig-wearing wannabe Tupac with a suit got washed by Joe Budden. Banished from the podcast, the petty petition Padre Supupac Manure, the Marilyn Monroe Echo had been beefing with Budden many years ago, but when it was time to show his bars, Joe proved he could blow while Drake melted like Canadian snow. Now that Joe's retired, Lubri is not afraid to throw some petty Instagram captions Joe's way, and Joe is firing back just the same. So let's break it all down, but first destroy the like and subscribe buttons until they decay. Now ladies and gentlemen, we see that Lubri is being called Supupac, and as DJ Khaled would say, I like that, I can adapt. You know what else I'd like to see? Luriana walking out of his hotel room and being forced to hear a little Danish kid blasting Not Like Us. Of course, lobby security came to check on the kid afterward. Now, in the middle of Luriana deciding to take his talents to Bobby Alto's podcast, there is one podcast that has permanently shut the door on Supac Manure ever showing up, and that is the biggest hip-hop podcast founded by Luriana's longtime frenemy, Joe Budden. Throughout this video, we'll go back in history and break down how Drake and Joe Budden went from friends to enemies. But before that, I dropped what's possibly the best and most detailed Rapaholics breakdown ever, covering the full story of Quentin Miller, how he ended up in OVO, and the whole beef between Drake and Meek Mill, and what really went down. A lot of questions were left unanswered, and we solved them all. I'll leave the link to that video in the description, and you can also check it on the right-hand side of your screen. I studied Quentin Miller for a living, but now let's get into this Joe Budden drama. You might remember back in the day when the Migos made a song saying if somebody's hating, call him Joe Budden. Joe used to be the face of hate, but now it looks like Luriana is sending more hate Joe's way, and Budden was only giving love and honest feedback. Not anymore though, because Lubri is now banned from the podcast. Recently, Joe Budden and his co-hosts were discussing the latest Twitter rant from the Toronto tough-talking Taylor Swift twin aimed at Rob Markman, one of the most respected hip-hop journalists of all time. They were talking about Rob's response to Drake, which we'll get into later, but basically after Drake commented that Rob was a goof for not knowing a Lil Wayne lyric, Rob clapped back, saying he could call Drake names too, but knows he loves us to sue. Joe Budden then said he likes how the world is calling Luriana Supupac now, and of course that connects to the fact that Luriana may have just purchased a fake Tupac death row chain.
You names too, but you would sue, and then that was the end of the exchange.
That was a good one.
It's a good comeback.
I saw a tweet earlier. Someone called him Supac.
Supac, I saw that. Supac is funny.
That's funny
because he also has the Tupac Death Row chain that people were saying that he just purchased, which he purchased.
They say it's fake or something, right? I think someone is coming out and questioning the authenticity of the chain that he purchased.
Oh,
what do you guys think? Is the chain fake or real? I mentioned in my last video that the guy who sold Drake the chain had a website filled with insane artifacts from major pop culture moments, like Michael Jackson's autographed shoes worn on a stage, an autographed copy of Thriller signed by Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones, and even the crystal glove Michael Jackson wore while performing. The problem is, it kinda sucks for this guy, because if this is the business he runs, it pretty much got damaged just because Drake had to flex this chain right after Kendrick came out in LA with the clips as a way to try and one-up him. I don't even know if pettily is a real word, but Lubri was definitely being petty, trying to distract the public from the fact that Kendrick and the Clips had just linked up live on stage.
The phone that Pusha T used during the show, it had his autograph on it. That was like a really, really big Clips fan. I used to pretend I was perform all the Clips songs in my basement with the mic, and then I performed with it so much that I rubbed the autograph off. At the time, it meant the world to me. I'm gonna regret even telling this story. I'm gonna regret even telling this story.
Embarrassing.
And as a result, now you have a bunch of people closely connected to Tupac, including Suge Knight, speaking from prison, saying there was only one death row chain and the one in Lubri's possession isn't it. But the guy who sold it to Lob insists there were several of them, claiming Tupac had multiple made, and this was one of them. Maybe not the exact one from the All Eyes on Me album cover, but still something that was in Tupac's possession at some point. If you don't understand why people are so upset about Drake buying this, think of it like this. Kendrick Lamar has been wearing the X chain at every live performance on the GNX tour, and I study Kendrick Lamar for a living. Imagine, God forbid, Kendrick passes away decades from now, and some random rapper with no real ties to him, not from the same city, not influenced by his sound, say a Canadian rapper, gets into beef with someone from LA. This rapper then starts off using Kendrick's vocals in AI format to taunt his LA opponent, knowing that rapper was massively inspired by Kendrick, and without permission from Kendrick's estate, he goes and buys Kendrick's X chain from the GNX tour just to flaunt it on Instagram while his opponent is performing live. Do you see how that would feel disrespectful? It looks less like honoring the legacy of Kendrick or Tupac and more like trolling an opponent. What makes it worse is that Drake didn't even post the chain with a meaningful caption reflecting on what the death row era meant to him. He simply threw it on Instagram the same night Kendrick and the Clips were performing live, with no kind words about Tupac's legacy, no hip-hop homage, nothing. It was just meant to taunt Kendrick. That's why people see this as disrespectful. And as you'll notice throughout this video, Drake is making moves that distance him from the American hip-hop scene altogether. From saying on the Wireless stage that American rappers can't compare to UK rappers, to beefing with legendary American hip-hop journalists like Rob Markman, while only doing content with people like Aiden Ross and Bobby Altoff who have nothing to do with hip-hop culture. Aiden Ross has even said hip-hop is dead, showing no respect for the culture that made Drake who he is. It's a clear attempt to alienate himself from the very foundation of his career. Anyway, Joe went on to say he listened to Rob Markman's response after Drake called him a goof and was frustrated that Rob was being too easy on Drake.
But then the next day I'm getting my manicure and Rob responds on his platform, YouTube. And I click it, and boy, was this just the cleanest reply that you could do. And I was so mad at Marvin. I was so mad at Rob Marvin. Too classy.
I loved it.
Nah, like it was.
And I don't know if I told you guys this in my last video, but something that will always stick with me was watching Rob Markman break down bars on his YouTube channel, and he paused to say that he couldn't tell viewers exactly who a bar was aimed at because only the artist could confirm that. He explained that he could share his interpretation, but he couldn't claim to know what the artist was truly thinking. As someone who studies rap battles for a living, and as someone who aspires to break down bars on YouTube at the level Rob does, that moment was powerful for me because it taught me the importance of moving with honesty and integrity. It's not the clickbait or drama that builds longevity, it's the respect you show for the art form you're discussing. Rob has always carried himself with that respect and honesty, so even when Drake called him out, he still kept it respectful and as objective as possible about what people should take away from the situation.
Fan page clipped the old 2019 interview I had with Tory Lanez. So Tory goes on to recite Lil Wayne's classic verse from Dedication 2 off the Canon record. And he did it like in a dramatic reading kind of style. It was mad funny. But basically he gets to the end of the verse and he throws the bar to me and I fumbled it. I missed the bar. Yes, I know the verse, but I fumbled, man. He threw the line to me. I dropped it. It was 6 years ago. I don't know what happened, but you got me. Red-handed, you got me. I missed the verse. I screwed up the line. Then Champagne Poppy leaves a comment on IG under the post. Of course, this goof Markman couldn't finish the bar. ... Free Tory. So I'm sitting there like, oh, we got jokes. A little bit of name calling, but we got jokes. I got jokes too. But I gotta watch what I say, because he might sue. Can't call no names. Just saying. So, but I dropped my response because it's all jokes, right? Then you know what happens after that. It becomes a story. So here's my thing. And anybody who watches me know I'm not really about disrespect. I may say I don't like a song. I may say I don't like a line. I may say, you know, you won or you lost the battle. I may say I don't agree with the lawsuit, but it's never coming from a place of disrespect. I don't do personal attacks. I don't call anybody out their name. We all here just talking music. We talking hip hop. I just call it like I said. I also keep it all about the music. So all that abs, braids, family court, all that stuff, like I stay away from it. If it's not like directly involved with the music, I tend to stay away. And I never lied to y'all one time. Y'all may not agree with my opinion, but when it comes to facts, I don't lie. Never lied to y'all. 21 years in this thing, never lied to the people not once. So here's my thing. I know the storyline is gonna attract a new energy, new viewers, just a whole lot of new whatever, right? So what I'm doing. But for me, nothing changes. You know, a great writer once wrote, gotta know yourself. And I know myself, man. After this, I'm not coming on here with no axe to grind or just being disrespectful, because that's not me. But this hip hop thing, this dedication to telling our stories the right way, the best way we can, yeah, that's me. And we all spend a lot of time online, so we know what happens next, right? There's gonna be a lot of fan accounts, a lot of bots, a lot of negativity. a bunch of lies spread. I could see some stories being planted and all that. That's just the game today. But you're not gonna catch me acting out of character. I know who I am. And to the homie, man, I get it. It's a tough time. It's a crazy time. It's a lot of stuff going on. This gotta suck, I know.
And yeah, Joe Budden says Rob's response wasn't spicy enough, but that's just not who Rob Markman is. And honestly, what would he even gain from going on a wild rant at Drake? He already got the publicity just from Drake mentioning his name. Drake tried to clown Rob by calling him a goofball, but in reality, Drake is the one who ends up looking like the goof. Rob has everything to gain and nothing to lose by not dropping down to that same petty level Drake is on. So Joe and his co-host started discussing what could actually be pushing Drake to jump out and make comments like this. Because really, what has Rob Markman ever done to Drake to deserve being called a goofball on some random Instagram post? The truth is nothing, and Joe chalks it up to the fact that Drake right now has an issue with pretty much anyone who didn't praise him during the battle.
Beef with Rob Markman. That's the thing I don't get.
I don't know.
Because for Drake to be Drake and take the time to actually go into the comments of a random post to come after
Some old content.
Right.
Yeah.
It seemed weird to me.
Not to me. He seems to have beef with the way that everybody covered the Kendrick battle who didn't suck his.
The thing is, the whole Rob Markman, Drake, and Joe Budden saga actually goes back to 2020, long before the current beef. Joe was on Instagram Live hosting a pool party when Drake left a comment saying, "Play the story of Adidon. I guarantee you Rob Markman will be the only one who knows that song word for word." On the surface, that was a joke, but it's ironic because now Drake is calling Rob a goof for not knowing Lil Wayne bars. Back in 2020, he thought he was clowning Rob by suggesting he was the only one bumping the story of Adidon, but that actually just showed how much Rob cares about hip-hop, enough to know a diss track word for word. That's why I don't think Drake's issue with these hip-hop media personalities is simply that they didn't praise him during the beef. I think it's an insecurity he's had for years. Remember when Kendrick dropped the Control verse? At that time, Drake was doing a press run for Nothing Was the Same, and every interview he did, radio hosts kept asking him about Kendrick's verse. He was the only rapper mentioned who gave a salty response, not through a diss track, but through interviews. After that, we never really saw Drake on a traditional press run again. Every interview he's done since has been controlled, posted on his own page, with him controlling the questions, the edits, and even clipping out anything he doesn't like. I think he's always resented situations where competition or honest questions don't paint him in a good light. That's why we barely saw him do interviews after the Meek Mill beef. Even though he won, every time interviewers brought it up, the conversation went back to Quentin Miller, the reference tracks, and the fact that Quentin had whole verses that Drake later rapped word for word. So now Drake tries to brand these hip-hop journalists as goofballs to fit his narrative. The truth is, they haven't made him look bad. He's made himself look bad when asked real hip-hop questions like, "What did you think of Kendrick's Control verse?" Who is Quentin Miller? Is it okay in hip-hop to have someone writing for you? These questions force him into corners where he doesn't look good. By targeting someone as neutral and respectful as Rob Markman, Drake gets to throw jabs knowing Rob won't clap back dramatically. He can't go at people like Glasses Malone or DJ Head, who are openly vocal about picking sides, because that would expose his saltiness about the beef. So instead he goes after easy targets like Rob, knowing Rob will keep it professional and won't stoop down to his level. It's also worth remembering that at the start of this beef, hip-hop media wasn't even fully on Kendrick's side. People like Charlemagne, Academics, Maul, Fat Joe, and Math Hoffa were suggesting maybe Kendrick was scared to respond since it took him 17 days to reply to Taylor Made. The media only shifted and admitted Kendrick won once it was undeniable. And by then, Drake's frustration with these outlets was already cemented.
Kendrick, you're on the clock, gang.
Kendrick on the clock. Okay, yeah. Kendrick is all the way on the clock.
Kendrick, where you at?
The boogeyman's coming.
Which boogeyman?
There's only one boogeyman.
I hear this whole, you're on the clock, you're on the clock, you're on the clock.
Now, neither one of them is going to make me look at somebody away because they're taking their time. Drake did what he had to do, and it looks like he's continuing to do it even with the bots game he's playing. And Kendrick is playing Silent Assassin Kung Fu Kenny games.
So anyways, Parks brings up an article he read called something like The Death of the Album Review, talking about how people don't really value critics putting out reviews anymore. This ties back to the fact that Joe Budden had a harsh Review of Drake's For All the Dogs in 2023 saying Drake needed to stop hanging out with young girls because that's all he was rapping about and it sounded stale. Drake clearly took offense, even referencing it in Tailor Made, saying, "Talk about him liking young girls. It's a gift for me. I heard it on the Budden podcast. It's gotta be true." After Joe's critique, Drake unleashed his full wrath on him. He posted a long rant saying, "Joe Budden, you failed at music. You left it behind to do podcasting because that's what pays your bills. For any artist watching this, remember you're seeing a failure. Give their opinion on success. A quitter telling you how to achieve longevity. You switched careers because your ideas had you broke living check to check, and the raps you wrote brought out 450 men in dusty jeans pretending you were the GOAT. Don't let opinions like his affect your mindset. This guy is the poster child for frustration and quitting. You're retired, nobody hung up your jersey, and nobody remembers your number. We know you for podcasting, not rap. You left rap not because you achieved greatness, but because it wasn't working. Nobody should think that everybody's entitled to their opinion is real. This is a man projecting his own self-hate, angry because I've done everything he wished he could do. If you need it simpler, I own a 767 jet. He owns a modest house in the 973 area code and flies first class on special occasions." That was Drake's reaction the last time he faced real criticism for an album. He can try to mask it and say, he was only mad because Joe Budden accused him of liking young girls. But the truth is, Drake said it himself in his music on For All the Dogs with lines like, "She was 21, still a savage." This rant shows he wasn't just upset at being misrepresented, he was furious simply because Joe Budden gave an honest opinion.